VCI brings to Blu-ray, actually it's a package with the DVD and the Blu-ray, but it's a new edition, a new transfer, Delinquent Schoolgirls from 1975. This is a film that I've known for years. I originally got this at a tape trade years ago, which was a crummy copy of a copy of a copy of an old VHS rental tape, probably. Later I picked up the VCI DVD, which was widescreen now and better resolution. And now I was very excited to get this new Blu-ray, which is a 4K scan. What do they say? It's a 4K scan from the original OCN. And I'm like, wow, this is a sleazy, wonderfully gratuitous film that I've always enjoyed. And I'm going to have a copy now that I can toss that old VCI DVD that I've long ago tossed the VHS copy that I had. And boy, was this not good. I don't like to do this, but I'm actually going to give you some screenshots here too, which I don't normally do. It is the Blu-ray debut. It is the DVD. The contents are identical on both. They look exactly the same, except one says DVD, one says Blu-ray. It's 88 minutes. It is part of their ongoing Psychotronica collection. The movie is directed by Greg Corarito, and it stars Michael Pataki, Steven Stucker, who you would know as Johnny from the Airplane films, Bob Miner, who was a legendary black stuntman in Hollywood in the 70s, 80s, and beyond. He did occasional acting roles, but usually his acting roles were somebody who was about to get, shot or pushed off a building or something like that. But Bob Miner's a guy I'm always happy to see in a film, and it's nice to see a film where he gets a meaty role like this. Buck Flower, who you would know. If you know Buck Flower, he makes any movie better. And Ron Gans is in it as a TV newscaster. Ron Gans is notable as the guy who narrated a ton of New World Pictures trailers. It's a voice, if you like 70s trailers and 70s movies like I do, it's a voice you will recognize. And it stars lovingly luscious ladies of the 70s. Colleen Brennan, who would go on to an adult film career after this, and Roberta Pedon. Now, if you're a fan of cantilevered females of the Russ Meyer nature, you would know Roberta Pedon. She didn't really do a lot of acting. She did a lot of loops. She did a lot of, pin-up magazine stuff, a lot of men's magazines, Easy Rider magazines. She always sort of dressed as a hippie. And this was like, I think the only film she was in where it was an acting role and she had dialogue. It wasn't just like a silent thing where she was showing off what the good Lord blessed her with. So this comes with optional English subtitles. And I will kind of go through, I'm going to tell you the story first, and then I'm going to tell you my issues with this, unfortunately. So the basic story is that three guys escape from a mental hospital. Three prisoners in a mental hospital escape, and they're just, Michael Pataki is sort of the leader, and he's this weird guy who's always like doing accents, like old classic film star accents. So for some reason, he'll talk like James Cagney, and then he'll pretend like he's Clark Gable, and it's just really kind of overtly theatrical and grating for my sensibility. Steven Stucker is a gay man, and he basically is ruthless and makes a lot of jokes because Steven Stucker was just innately kind of hilarious, and he's very funny in this. And occasionally we'll make little stories about why couldn't it. The story is that they bust out, as it were, and they come to find themselves at an all-girls reformatory, and they just start licking their lips and going, "Ooh, ladies." Except for Steven Stucker, who's like, couldn't it have been a men's school that we break into? So he's funny. Bob Miner is just a sex maniac. He's just always making incredibly crude things about trying to get some to a degree that is, this movie is basically a dark comedy. So you can look at it through modern sensibilities and be just horrifically offended at everything that goes on, or you could look at it as it's a 70s drive-in grindhouse exploitation movie, and that's what these were like. And they're really going over the top with what the dialogue is and what all the characters do, be they male or female. The female characters are always wearing, going braless, wearing super tight white tops and doing jumping jacks and things for no reason, playing volleyball in the middle of the night for no reason, taking showers for no reason, that kind of thing. Not as much nudity as you would think in this movie. There is some, but not as much as you would think, or perhaps if you're fans of some of these ladies would have wanted. So it's, aside from subject matter and, the standard 70s had to have it in their sexual assault, there is not a lot of like real violence or not a lot of nudity in this film. Again, considering it's more the tone, I think, that it's rated R for. So that's the basic story here. So in the opening of the film, and it's a film, despite all those disreputable things, it's a film I've always enjoyed for the prurient reasons and for the comedic reasons, and because it's a film that would probably never have gotten made a decade or two later and forevermore after that. So you open it up, and Michael Pataki is being given shock treatment by some orderlies in the asylum, mental prison, whatever you want to call it, which I believe is identified by a very cheap-looking sign on a fence that clearly was just made probably 15 minutes before they shot it. He's getting shock treatment, and he starts to freak out, and he goes to break out and like bust out of the table and the restraints he's under, and it freeze frames, but the sound continues. And then next thing you know, he's over near a window, and I'm like, that's really weird. That seems off. Now, they said this is a new transfer from the OCN, and it's entirely possible. You see some blemishes on the print here and there. It's entirely possible that that was done to cover up missing footage. Like there may just have been a gap where it was so bad. Either there was literally no film there, or it was in such bad condition that they couldn't do anything with it. I would have preferred that they, if at worst, they patched something in there from the previous DVD transfer, just so that it would be, there'd be continuity there, because I popped in the DVD. I kept doing this. I was going back and forth between the DVD that I previously owned that was released years ago and the Blu-ray. And yeah, that footage is there on the DVD. It was there on the old bootleg tape I had. But sadly, in this, what we hoped was a definitive release of this film, there's that little bit of footage missing. Does it hurt the story? No. It's just knowing that, like, I would kind of like to have the film as it was meant to be seen. Again, I don't know what VCI had to work with on this, and it's possible that what I'm going to talk about was the result of an OCN being in horrendous condition. So my issue is that. Also, that when you watch the film, the whites blow out. And what I mean by that is anything that's white, like somebody's wearing a white shirt or there's a white wall, it just is like a flat white when there should be detail there. And if you are a prevert and you're watching this because you're like, wow, this is the only film Roberta Pedon ever did, and she's, I'm going to sound like a terrible person, she's braless in a white tank top jumping up and down, and the tank top isn't covering her, and the image is so bright that the whites blow out and you can't see the detail that you could see in every copy of this beforehand. So it is removing detail from one of the main reasons you want to watch this film. That is kind of a bummer. Skies sometimes are just white, when in a previous transfer they were like a light blue. Faces, which had a bit more color to them, are like overexposed. There's a sequence where Buck Flower is in his house talking to his wife, and you see a shot of him standing against a wall that are light-colored, whitish walls. And in this transfer, they just blow out white, whereas there was detail in the original. And as I'm talking, you'll see some of what I'm talking about here, some of the images. And sequences, and overall, the color palette it's too bright, and it's very bluish. Like, it doesn't have the warmth that the previous transfer had. Now, granted, if you go back and forth between the DVD and the Blu-ray, and the screenshots that you're seeing are me pointing my phone camera at my TV in the dark at night. So they're by no means actual screen grabs, but they're representative of what I was seeing. So they're not meant to be taken as 100% accurate, but let's say they're like 95% accurate. The color palette for the previous DVD, which didn't look great. It looked pretty beat up and pretty grungy and grimy. It was warmer than this. This is a very cold look to it. Everything leans a little bit more toward like the light blue or the green and things like that. And it's a bummer because at times it doesn't look bad at all. It's clearly very sharp, but there are other times where, and I don't have an image for this, but something would move across the screen like that. And it looked a little weird. And I paused it and I did a frame by frame, and that thing that was moving had broken up into these weird little blobs that almost looked like weird kind of AI blobs, which made me wonder. I know a lot of AI is used. AI is an ugly word for a lot of people, and I'm not a fan for most of its applications, but there are AI programs that can be used in restoration to sharpen things, to try to bring detail out of areas that don't have detail. And it makes me wonder if some sort of AI pass was done on this transfer and it caused items that were thin that quickly moved through the screen or through the frame to break up into weird little blobs. Like there's a scene where something gets thrown on the ground in a gym, in like a rag or something, or a piece of clothing in a pile. And it looked weird as it sort of did that onto the ground. And I looked as I went through, and it had broken up into weird little blobs until it was a still image. It was very strange and kind of a bummer. So I really can't recommend this. I'm going to tell you the extras. maybe if you're less discerning and you want to play with your TV settings more, it'll be fine. If you've never seen this movie, it might not make a difference to you. But it's a bummer that what I thought was going to be the definitive presentation of Delinquent Schoolgirls is it's not that pleasant to look at for the most part. And a lot of the things you want to look at in this film don't look very good. Now, there are moments where it doesn't look bad at all, but if you compare it to the other color tone and, let's say, accuracy, completeness of the previous DVD, I'd say I would probably recommend the previous DVD. So extras on this are an audio commentary by Bob Miner and Elijah Drenner. This is ported over from the previous DVD, so they make some references that make you realize it was done a while ago. But clearly Miner has not, seems like a really nice guy, has not watched the movie in a really long time, and it's fun to hear his honest assessment of the film, of the experience of the film, his amusement at the outrageousness of the film, and his glee at, as a young, virile man, some of the situations he was placed in making the film. A note on this is that the audio is super low. So like if you have this on and you watch the movie and you have the menu on and you hit the commentary, you have to crank it way up. So if you listen to the commentary, be very careful to crank it down before you go back, because you may blow your speakers out when everything else comes back at full volume. Also, it is listed correctly on the box cover, the disc case, that this is the commentary that's on here. But when you pop over to the menu, it inaccurately lists the commentary as with Jack Hill and Elijah Drenner, which is a carryover. They must have used, and I don't blame them. This is what I call the danger of templates, or the danger of reusing things. They probably used the menu template for the Blu-ray menu and DVD menu that they had used for their Mondo Keyhole Blu-ray release, which I think was the one right before this as far as the Psychotronica collection goes, even though the number, which number in the volume it is a later number, because that was the menu, that was the commentary on the Mondo Keyhole disc, and that same text is here. So it pops up and you're like, Jack Hill didn't direct Delinquent Schoolgirls, and you hit play and it's the right one. So it is the right commentary. So if you pop it in and you're worried that you're going to listen to Jack Hill for some reason, it's not the wrong commentary. It's just they didn't change the text. The extras on this are that commentary, Psychotronica Dive into Cult Cinema, which is 2.5 minutes. A voiceover basically describes what Psychotronica is, what Psychotronic movies are, over a lot of B-roll, some AI created stills, then some film stills and posters of movies that fit into that category, and then some like short clips from trailers. And then there are trailers for this film. You get the original trailer and a TV spot, though the TV spot is like, the TV spot is weird. It's 4:3 as a TV spot would have been in 75, but it's stretched out or squashed to fit your widescreen frame, and the title card is messed with, like it was like recreated in some way. That's a 3-minute total, so it's basically a 1.5 or 2.5 minute trailer and a 30 or 60 second TV spot. So a movie I really like, and I'm really bummed to say I'm not going to probably keep this disc because it's really not that pleasant to look at, and it seems like a big ball got dropped on this, unfortunately. So from VCI, if you're curious, from VCI Psychotronica Collection Volume 1, Delinquent Schoolgirls on Blu-ray and DVD. But the DVD in this is not the DVD I keep referencing. The DVD in this, I checked, does have that same, to me, incredibly flawed transfer on it. So if you want this, I would recommend getting the VCI DVD, which pairs this with another separate cult film of the era.